write like a man. Use a typewriter.
Retconning. This is something that you wanted to talk about.
Oh,
and it's funny because when Jonathan told me, he was like, let's talk about retconning. I'm like, okay, sure. Yeah, that sounds great. What is that? I've never heard that term before.
You sweet summer child.
I know I'm a noob at all this. So, Jonathan, tell us, what is retconning?
Innocent, young, good-hearted babe. Retconning is where, in the original version of Empire Strikes Back, Luke falls down the chasm of Cloud City after making his choice to rather die than join Vader. And yet in the special edition of Empire Strikes Back, Luke falls down the chasm in Cloud City after choosing to die rather than join Darth Vader. And on his way down, he screams,
That's it?
Retconning is where you... That's the funny definition. The real version is retconning is where you go back, you retro... I can't remember if it's like retro condition or retro contrivance. It's where you go back and you change things in previous finished work to match with whatever current iteration you have. So,
okay,
I'll give you a classic example. Very minor. However, very minor to most people, a big deal to me. I have a couple of characters who in the first Angel books are cherubs.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Heavenly Realm series, there are two choirs of angels.
Two babies.
Yeah.
Two little chubby babies.
Yeah, two little chubby, with
their little Cupid bows and arrows.
Mm-hmm, their little wings.
And they're naked.
Yep, and their little peepees.
Not a kid's book.
Right, not for kids. Epstein approved.
Oh, I can't wait to get on that topic. We're gonna do a whole. We got to do a whole episode about that. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. That'd be great. Anyway, continue.
So there are cherubim who are like the warrior caste.
Mm-hmm.
the big warrior Spartan-esque Roman legionary types. Just tough, brutish. And then there are the seraphim, who are the messenger caste, the heralds, the more officerial, softer. The yin and the yang. The male and female.
The Air Force of the angelic
the
military
Marines
forces.
And the Air Force.
Right.
We don't need the Navy and we don't need the
No offense.
And we don't
to my
need
Air Force friends, we do need you.
Yes. Someone's got to drop
They're basically the chair force of the heavenly forces.
Right. They really are. I really did model, the seraphim tend to be more intellectual.
No offense with the chair force comment, because technically F-16s, you sit in a chair to fly one.
That's true. Yeah.
And they're pretty freaking cool.
If I remember correctly, I think the A-10 Warthog is a vehicle of the Air Force. And the A-10 Warthog is the meanest plane ever.
It is mean. It is mean.
It's the coolest.
Yeah.
It is a flying tank. And yet it's also a tank buster.
And its gun.
Yeah.
Is, if I recall, the size of the gun is equal to like a Volkswagen Bug.
Yes, and
it's
when
massive.
It fires, it slows the plane down.
That's so cool. It's so cool.
Fires 30 millimeter.
The Thunderbolt, the Warthog, same plane. A-10.
Yeah,
A-10. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, we detour.
We digress into cool stuff.
Oh man, it's awesome.
But yeah, so the Seraphim are kind of like the Air Force. They're they're typically better educated, more intellectual, more operational, more strategic. Tend to be more officerial. They're not as physical.
Right.
They're not usually like your infantry.
Right.
They're not your ground pounders. And you need both. You need, and the Seraphim belong to Gabriel, and the Cherubim belong to Michael. And so they each sort of have their different groups.
Okay.
And then the Cherubim are more like your Marines. They can be like
they're the ones that belong to Michael.
Yeah. But they're they're the ones who are down in the mud. Just kicking ass and taking names.
Yep.
And they're both awesome, and they need each other. But like I had this problem where in the first book, maybe in the first couple books, I had a couple characters listed as cherubim, mainly because
I didn't really know what to do with the Seraphim because it's not my personality type. I didn't really know how to treat the Seraphim, and so I kind of gave like all the cool characters the cherubim cast.
Mhm.
I made them all cherubim because it's like, well, I know how to write that.
Yeah, because that's you. I mean, that's like the difference. Oops, sorry. That's like the difference between you and me. I'm more seraphim. You're more cherubim.
Yeah, Nick is more of a chick.
I'm more of a chip. How dare you, sir? How dare you?
How dare you?
I'm more of an F-16 guy.
Yeah, and I'm more of just a.
You're more
knight
of the
in
shock
jungle.
troopers guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm more ODST.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm a bullet soaker. That's,
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah. So.
No, it's true.
God.
And so, but
I mean, I
had,
like
these-
chicks. I still like chicks. Let's be very clear.
Nick
I
does
still like
chicks.
girls.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
This is a great conversation. I love it.
But I did. I had a couple characters who were cherubim just because that was my default. I didn't really know what else to do. And you'll notice like in the first book there is a preponderance of like that's actually one of the reasons why I wrote the fifth novel, Wayfarers. The fifth novel, Wayfarers, is like me playing mea culpa to the Seraphim and giving the Seraphim their dues. Because I was like, man, I haven't, as I've gotten older, I've, started to like understand, this character type more that I created, but I didn't really know what to do with. And so I changed it so that a couple of characters are Seraphim in the later books. But then when I went back and looked at their like borderline cameo appearances, they are mentioned by name in the earlier books. They're little more than a name in the early books, but they're mentioned as cherubs. So I have to retcon that. And it serves the story. It serves the greater whole of the story for them to be seraphim.
So as a series or story develops, you have to go back and make changes so that they're consistent with the universe that you're building.
Right. And you have to be really careful about that because you can make some Star Wars special edition mistakes, where you are retconning things that you really should leave alone. But
I had to retcon a couple things because my wife caught them when she was proofreading.
No kidding.
Yeah, and this is post-publication.
Oh yeah.
I had to go back, which is easy to do. Again, self-publishing sucks, but the cool silver lining is you can just upload an updated file.
Yeah.
And it's all taken care of.
Yeah.
Which is what I did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I get what you're saying. I think I'm starting to understand it.
And if you ever get super popular, then there are multiple versions out there, and like who knows on eBay,
Yeah.
That first edition, that first edition where you're all an Azrael or cherubim instead of seraphim.
Dude, I can't wait for the day when my $10 first edition is worth $12.
Worth
I'll have
$11
the big time.
40 cents. Yeah. Now I've made it.
Yeah.
Shuck it, Stephen King. Jump.
Oh, by the way, I invited Stephen King to be on the live stream.
Yeah. Oh, we said no. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
He's like, no.
Mm-hmm. Like, here's a bag of cocaine. How about a nice relapse? But yeah, I mean, that's retconning as a writer. There's nothing that says you can't retcon except getting caught. And getting caught by your audience, and even then, like there are people, like I'm sort of a Star Wars purist where like truthfully I'd rather have the warts and blemishes and acne and all version of the old VHS copies of Star Wars than anything made after 97.
Agreed.
Agreed. So I have to carry that in order to be authentic. I have to carry that into my own work and really, really think about like if I need to retcon something. It's one thing to retcon a mistake, you can retcon a mistake where you get to a version, or you're writing one of the later books and you're like, oh yeah, and this character is the leader of the Cordova legions, and you're like, wait a second. Wait, I thought he was the leader of the Cordovas, but in this it says the Concordias. Was it the Cordovas or the Concordias?
Yeah.
Okay, so now you have a fork in the road. You're like, I can either change what I'm writing now, Or what if what I'm writing now is always what I've wanted it to be,
Yeah.
but I screwed it up in the past?
You know it's bad
You know?
when your 10-year-old son says, "Wait, Dad, you said the main character was leader of this particular group of the club, this
Yeah.
particular," which happened in book 3.
Oh, really?
Christian said, "You said that Hoops was the leader of the club knights, not the fox hunters," and I'm like, "Oh shoot!" I had to go back and retcon that.
Right.
I had to go back and change that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Self-publishing.
yeah, self-publishing, and but again, that is a testament to the credit of collaboration, of having somebody else in your world, in your network, to provide checks and balances to sort of, because you become smell blind to your own mistakes a lot of
For
times,
sure. For
you
sure.
know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. If you think you can read your own work, if you write a rough draft or a first draft,
Mhm.
and you think you can immediately go back and find all the little mistakes
Mhm.
or inconsistencies, you
It'll
can't do
never
it.
happen.
You gotta have.
No.
It has to be a different human being doing that.
Yeah,
It has to be. For me, it has to be.
The temptation that you run into is, you create inconsistencies with chasing the dragon of whatever dopamine rush you have from your new idea. And so in order to justify the new idea's existence, you retcon the old ideas to be consistent.
Yeah.
And that's the weak character decision that you have to make of like, oh, what do I do? Do I stick to my guns of like the old character, the tradition, or do I change the old thing to justify the new thing? And it really depends.
It's very Lucasarian.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I realize that, like, and I really try never to do it. I'd rather have something flawed than change something. But really, probably about the only time I've ever done it was with those two characters, with Azrael and Ural. Ural originally was a cherub until I got into Wayfarers and realized, like, in order for, because Ural is a character who is like a foil to another character, Melfax, who's like a main character in the story, and they're buddies, but they play off of each other, and they're very opposite. Like, one's a mystic, the other's a scholar, and so in order for that disparity, that that opposites attract sort of thing to be accentuated, one needs to be a cherub, who I can't get around changing that,
right?
Because Melfax is in every book. He's a main character. The other, Ural, who's a fairly unexplored character, needs to be a seraph for it to really work.
Yeah.
But the problem is in like the other versions of the early books where he shows up every now and then, he's mentioned as being a cherub. And it's like, well, which is the greater sin? Like, is it worth it? In this particular case, yes, it was worth it, especially considering that Wayfarers was about the seraphim, and so it makes sense sometimes to retcon, and you hope that your audience doesn't feel that they've been betrayed. It kind of, and there's no way to really get around that, because there are going to be some people who, and you can apply this, like, where this really shows up, honestly, is like comic books, from what I gather. Like, this is really where retconning is like a real problem, to the point where, like, they have occasionally they'll reset, the whole universe, the whole multiverse. And you really will have fans who are in love with the concept that, like, Ural is a cherub, and they'll feel betrayed, but it's just, it's collateral damage that you have to take.
Yeah.
You want to you don't want to exist as a tyrant over and lording over your audience and being like, well, now I think that everybody's red, and now I think that whatever, this is going to be the thing now, and you just have to accept it and love it. Like,
I hate
that's disrespectful to the audience.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, there are some things where, yeah, right. But there are some times where you kind of have to say, like, no, you know what, like, this, I'm sorry, like, I screwed up.
Yeah.
I screwed up.
Yeah.
Ural should have always been a seraph, and I made a mistake. It's a minor thing.
Yeah.
So
Adam says that Star Wars should be left as it was intended originally.
Yes.
It is blasphemous to alter anything. Amen. And God bless you.
Preach it, Adam.
And you know what? Yeah, we know that
Hallelujah.
the episodes 4, 5, and 6, right? The very first 3 that came out we all know that is like the gold standard
of
the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
Everything since has been crap for one reason or another.
Yeah. Except the Mandalorian.
Except the Mandalorian. However, I will say this. The one thing that has been consistently brilliant from episode 4 to now is John Williams and the score that he writes for all the movies.
You know, no kidding. Yeah.
It's the glue that holds that whole universe together.
It really is.
Otherwise, I could take 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, flush them down the toilet.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the music, that made me feel like, this feels like the same universe.
Tie it all together.
Yeah.
More than anything else.
You get the same feels.
Yeah, you do. Well, you have the same themes. You have, I mean, how many themes are there in Star Wars? Like half a dozen?
Oh,
7?
at least.
Probably.
At least.
Distinctive themes.
Yeah.
And then everything really sort of plays off of those. He did come up with some original material I guess he's come up with original themes for every one of them. I remember the ones for the prequel trilogy, being distinctive. But even that material had a lot of stuff it ties it all together. It really is like the ligaments that holds everything.
Adam says the writing of the score is amazing.
Yeah.
It is what makes it real and come to life. I totally agree.
Yeah, I mean,
Totally
dude,
agree.
how powerful is that moment when? I mean, even in like episode 1, when they're like retaking the Naboo palace and the doors part and there's Darth Maul.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
and Darth Maul. And what's it called? Something motif. Can't remember the motif, but where every character has their own musical motif.
Oh yeah.
My wife knows the term for this. It's a classical music term.
Interesting.
But Luke has a theme. Leia has a theme. Han actually has a theme. It's harder to recognize, but it's there. Yoda has a theme.
Yeah.
Maul, Vader, the Emperor, they all have their own unique musical themes
Yeah.
to their character. And when those doors open up and you see Darth Maul,
Dun dun.
oh,
Dun,
dude, yeah,
dun.
it is on.
Yeah, it's
It's
notes.
the best move. It's the best moment of the whole movie.
It really is. Yeah.
That duel, the Duel of the Fates.
Yeah, the Duel of the Fates.
It's the best sequence of that entire film.
I mean, dude, like the choral arrangement was an old Sanskrit poem called "The Battle Under the Trees." Like what
I
the
didn't know
choir
that.
is singing.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's really weird. But but I love what I love about that moment is like Natalie Portman's character, like Amidala's reaction is the audience's reaction, where she looks and she sees Maul and she says, "We'll go around."
Yeah.
Or we'll take the long way. It's like, yeah, you will.
It's my fantasy for someone to look at me like that
yeah.
and be like, I'll go that way.
I'll go
I'm
that
okay.
way, yeah.
No, you're right. You can have them.
Yeah,
This is yours.
You guys have something that you got to work out.
You can
for
have all
yourselves.
this.
Yeah, this you can do whatever you want here.
It's like every man's
ready to
fantasy
go.
for the doors to open up the elevator at the office, and they see you, and everyone just parts.
Yeah. That's that's kind of what I had at Waste Management.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
brilliant because I don't think I've ever had that, but that would be amazing.
Well, you just have to,
Now I say I do have that when I open my kid's room when they're supposed to be cleaning it.
yeah.
And they're in there, and I hear them. They're laughing. They're playing with Legos. They're supposed to be
You
cleaning it
show
up, and I
and
open it
everything
up.
gets quiet.
Dun dun
Dun, dun, dun,
dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
and the belt comes out.
yeah.
No, I don't.
It's time for everybody.
And they start working pretty fast, I will say. So I have that over my kids.
You
At
know what? You
least
do.
I have command over my own
That's where it
children.
matters.
That's
That's where it matters. Yeah,
You're welcome,
the trick
society.
to accomplishing that in the office is to be irascible and unapproachable. And if you're high enough on the disagreeability scale, people will leave you alone. Yeah, and they will fear you and they will avoid you, and then you don't have to hear about their weekends.
That's brilliant.